A lot of times sisters come up and they ask, how can we get involved in dawah? And do we also go out and sit at the dawah table and stand in the street and give dawah and things of that sort? Realistically, what you're doing is you're really narrowing dawah down to just being in front of the dawah table. And I always tell sisters, who said dawah is just the dawah table? There's so many different angles and so many different ways through which you can call to Allah. And this is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that He always gives us many avenues through which we could worship Him. So perhaps one person is not good at fasting, but they're good at qiyam, so they can excel and do excess in qiyam. But if they're good at fasting, then khalas, then they're good at fasting and they put effort into that. So from the mercy of Allah, there's never just one way to worship Him. There are multiple ways. Same thing with da'wah. It's not just the da'wah table, and that's the only way to worship Allah, but there's so many other ways as well. And let's just now, if you start to think about it, you'll come up with things you never considered. For example, there's so many websites that have women who are incarcerated in America, in Canada, and probably also in the UK. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm sure there are some, who are looking for pen pals. They're bored out of their minds, they're in prison, there are no distractions, and they need someone to write something to them. So what if just some sisters just took it upon themselves to write letters to all these incarcerated women and tell them about Allah and tell them about Islam and send them pamphlets and establish a rapport with them? You would never have time for anything after that. So who said da'wah is just the da'wah table? There's so many different ways, so many different angles, talking to your co-workers, to your neighbors. You know something? If every sister just made sure she took care of her neighbors, and by the way, the neighbor in Islam isn't the one to the right and left. Even people across the street and a number of houses down, those are your neighbors as well, right? So their neighbors are many, and that's why when Allah mentions in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُوبِ. So the neighbor that's close by and the neighbor that's a while away. So they're still your neighbors. If you just did that, you would be so busy. So it's not just the da'wah table. There are many, many ways, and as long as you're dressed properly, follow Islamic etiquette, only talk about Islam, alright, and you're not alone with the man and things of that sort, then the scholars say for the most part it's halal for a woman to give da'wah. So go out and do the work, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.